Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Strategy Gaming Dojo, where we find, learn, and play one more turn of the great strategy games. And today I'm going to continue on with our Let's Play tutorial of Field of Glory Empires. Now, we got started last time. It was part one. This is part two. And so we had just kind of touched the surface of this game. Last time we talked about the fact we are the Arverni, which was a Celtic Gallic tribe. Uh, Historical. This is all historically based. And we are right here, kind of in the middle of what becomes Gaul, eventually France, of course. And we have a very powerful military. Now, last time we changed our general over to Arvernix. Arvernix is a 1 and 1. And when I say a 1 and 1, you see down there offensive rating, defensive rating. That goes up to 2 without bonuses. Now, the base numbers go 0, 1, and 2. And so he is actually a 1 and 1 in both. Early in the game, that's not too bad. All right. This is our army, and it shows you this in cards, but we have Ambactus heavy infantry, which is kind of our heavy plus infantry. Then we have regular heavy infantry. We have some light cavalry. We have some warriors, which would be considered kind of like medium foot. Okay. And then we have some skirmishers, all right? And then as we go into our region here, last time we decided to build a shepherd house. Excellent. That will give us +5 in food here. And then we talked about our pops. We have citizen pops, we have slave pops. And underneath here, I don't think I mentioned this last time, when you see the red or the green, this is their happiness level. And of course, you may find this shocking. The slaves are not happy. The citizens are happy. Although that can change. Your citizens can become disaffected with your rule, and they can turn red as well. It is a real challenge to get the slaves to turn green, as you might imagine. But you can free slaves. You can turn them into citizens if you like. But those are all options as the game goes on. So last time, really, we picked a new general, we picked a shepherd house, and we also started to build a new infantry unit that will be spawned here in Arverni. We found out that given, the buffs and bonuses we have right now, if they are built if they are built in our home territory here of Arverni, they get +15 experience points. We'll get into all that. One last thing that I did not show you last time is the main Arverni flag here, which brings up all of the information about our society. You see here, this is our flag, which appears to be a swine of some sort. I kind of like it. Look at this little pig here. It's a pig on pink. Who would have ever thought of that? I guess the Arverni did. Uh, Status age 15 years. That is how old our current society is. We'll get into that later. It's beyond what we're doing right now. We are a stable, industrious tribal chiefdom. Now that is a mouthful, but again, that's the kind of thing we'll get into as we play the game. It will be much easier for you to understand it when you see it. That also goes for progress and decadence, and arguably that is the most innovative feature of this game. It's part of what makes this game great because you can't just expand. You've got all kinds of considerations, including your progress and decadence levels. We'll be looking at that along with legacy, which is really how you kind of win the game. I think that in some respects, AGEOD in this game for Rand Crusader Kings 3 in that way is legacy is really the points. If you're looking for a scoreboard, how do I win? How do I lose? It's legacy, or quite frankly, keeping your faction alive when you start with a smaller faction like the Arverni. Now, this is our ruler right now, Critolus. We didn't talk about this as much last time, but he has certain traits that help your country or hurt your country. So let's look. He's a good diplomat. Okay, that's great. This ruler is a decent diplomat. Well, it says good diplomat and then decent diplomat. Okay. Often he will be able to come home with a good deal from the negotiation table. Diplomacy, bonus of 10% of current rate to the acceptance chance of treaties. All right. Diplomacy, 5 extra chances per turn to improve your relationships with other nations. Okay, well that's good. This game has a good diplomacy part to it. That is not usually the case with a new game or a game right off the shelf. Usually, diplomacy is something that these grand strategy games really struggle with. I think the diplomacy in this game is pretty good. Is it perfect? No, of course it's not. There's never been a perfect diplomacy situation set up in a game where you play the AI. It's just impossible. You have to have other humans for it to be really, really good, but I think this one is good enough. He's a poor administrator. Well, that's unfortunate. This ruler is a mediocre administrator. The economy will suffer under his governorship. Okay. Taxation penalty of 10%. Well, all right, it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about the ruler. And then you see here, good military. This ruler is decent in the matters of war. His generals should be able to be the winners of most conflicts, if not outnumbered too heavily. The leader force pool bonus is +1. What does that mean? That means, as you remember from last episode, we got to pick a new general, and there was a menu. I mean, let's just go to it while we're talking about it. There, if you click on your general here, you see a menu of generals, and they have different stats, they have different traits. We picked one that was 1 and 1. That leader pool bonus means we get one extra uh, leader to look at here, general to look at. So normally you would get to look at two, we get to look at three. So it gives you another chance at a dice roll to get a really nice general. And so that's what that is. Reduction of 20% on experience needed to level up your troops. That's great. And military expertise bonus of 30%. That will help you build things. Okay. And so that's our leader. As I said, progress and decadence, we'll get into that. You can read an overview here. Objectives, these are the objectives we have. Modifiers for our peoples, our Arverni here. High military expertise. This gives us a bonus 15 XPs when a unit is created. This comes from our leader. We have Celtic tradition. So you can read through all these. I'm not going to read them all. Essentially, we are good military. We have Celtic tradition, which gives us certain buildings that other people do not get, and we are a tribe right now. That gives us a manpower bonus of 15%, and we are industrious, so our infrastructure bonus is 20%, but we do get a health penalty for that. So for every faction that you might want to play, you can read through here and see the different modifiers that you might get. Nation traits, kind of the same thing. It tells you the same basic information here. Decisions. Now, as a society, we will get certain decisions. Those will pop up over here on the left-hand side, and we'll deal with those as they come. And you also get special reports. So let's click off there. And now, last time you may remember, we have instructed our army to go over here into the plains of Duranius. All right, we want to take this because we're trying to get to the sea. We want to get over here and get onto a body of water. Why is that? Well, because it gives you certain trading opportunities. You can also build a navy. And let's just, say what it is. You never want to be landlocked, right, in any game or in history in general. You just don't want to be landlocked. So we're going to get over here and try to get to the sea. This region controls this coastal hex, including Aquitania down here. Now, Aquitania has the port that goes out into this, yet this region controls this this section. So it gets, we're obviously going to come into conflict with the Aquitani sooner rather than later, but we'll get to that when it comes. Okay, great. I think we can go ahead and hit next turn. We did everything we needed to do this turn. We'll end the turn, and you'll see how a turn resolves itself here. And there goes our army. And what in the world is going on here, you may say? Well, every single region has indigenous people that live there. These are Celtic independent, all right? So this was their land. Our tribe, our what we hope to be an empire, is coming over here to take this land. And so you always have this kind of token force of people that already lived there. But as you can see, 78 to they have two armies here, a 9 and a 4, all right? And this is where if you wanted to, you could export this to Field of Glory 2. As I say, pretty much every region you go into, you would be exporting a battle for that, so I just never ever do it. Um, so our this shows our army. It shows the frontage, right? Terrain, plain, frontage. This is what I was talking about before. You can have up to 14 units on your front line. And so if you do not have 14, if you have less than that, you will get flanked. So if you are going to fight on plains and it has a frontage of 14, you want to pretty much always make sure that you have at least 14 units. Otherwise, your units are going to get flanked around the edges. Okay, that's something really important to keep in mind. Always know what the frontage is. And again, you can find that when you click on a region, you go over and look at the information for the region, it will tell you what the frontage is, or you can just start to memorize them. For the plains, it's always 14. For hills, it's always going to be 8. When you get up into mountains, alpine, it's always 6. All right. And so you can start to kind of know what those frontages are and how many troops or how many units you need to have. So this is our general, our Vernix, 1 and 1. We already knew that. Combat power 78. We actually have 18 units, so we have more than the frontage. All right. Celtic Independent, they have a 13 power, only 6 units. They do not even have a general. All right. We could export this to Field of Glory 2, or we could go view it. Let's go view it and look at the combat resolution within the game, which I actually kind of like. And you may say, you're nuts for liking this, but I think for a game, for a grand strategy game to actually show you this stuff, I kind of like it. So let's view our battle. And as you see, this is the frontage. There are 14 squares across here. All right. So that's our front line. Now your skirmishers will always be out here out front, and your skirmishers will fire first and try to disrupt the enemy. Okay. But as you can see, we are definitely going to flank this army without a doubt. All right. And so how will the game resolve this? Well, the game is going to put your infantry units here in the front line. And then as you get out to the edges, it will put cavalry. And then to the extent that it doesn't need more units out here, it will double up units. So if this unit starts to fail, you have a reserve. This is like your reserve, okay? Now you don't actually control this. So if we're not going to export it to Field of Glory 2, we it's we're up to it's up to our general. Our general is going to make the decisions. Now we have a pretty good general. He's a 1 and 1. They don't even have a general. They're essentially just tribesmen out here trying to get us out of their land, all right? And so you can pick continuous play if you want, if you just want to watch how it plays out, or you can hit play and it will show you every single turn of the battle. So this is the ranged phase, all right? Now we have to hit play again. And there goes our javelin men hitting. They did not have any skirmishers. Those were our skirmishers firing on them. And we've already exhausted them just with our javelins. Okay, so we can hit play again. And now you start to see the dice rolls. And this is what you always have to keep in mind when it comes to your military. They have warriors. We have that Ambactus heavy infantry. Okay. Their combat rating is a 3, but they're exhausted. That's a -1. So they have a 2 total rating. All right. We have a 6 combat rating. Now, you may say, why is that a 6? Well, you can look down here, and it tells you all of the factors that go into what your combat rating is. Plus, we have a +2 support bonus. What does that mean? We have troops in reserve. That gives you a support bonus. So earlier when I said you want to have 14 when the frontage is 14, ideally you would actually want to have 28 if you can, 28 units, because it gives you a support bonus when you have a reserve behind. So our total rating is 8, theirs is 2, all right? And it does a simple dice roll based on your ruler or I'm sorry, your general. And so because we have a +1 offensive general and we are attacking, we get 2 dice rolls and we take the higher one. If his offense was a 2, we would get not only our just base dice roll here and one more, we would get 2 more dice rolls and get to take the top of those 3 rolls total. That is what this number is. So when he's a 1 and 1, when he's in offense or in defense, since he's a 1 and 1, he gets 1 extra roll above the base, and you get to keep the higher one. Okay? And so it's just 7 plus 8, 15. They had a 3, 2 plus 1. They're dead. You know, 15 to 3. Anything where you're essentially 2 points or 3 points higher than the opposing force, they are dead. If it's 1 or 2, they may become disrupted, they may retreat, but anything 3 or above, they definitely, you kill them in battle. So now we move on to the next units, and it always moves from the center out. All right. Across they go, same idea. We get 2 rolls, they only get 1. We got a 7 again as our top roll. We again were 8 against 2 on the base, 15 to 4. They're dead. Okay. We move on down the line. Now we're just heavy infantry. This is a 5, but they're down to urban militia. My goodness, and they're exhausted. That's why you have skirmishers. So it's 6 against 1 at the base. All right. Let's roll the die. And we got a 10, they got a 3 again. I mean, we're just massacring this army, right? But we kind of knew that from the start. 18 to 5, and they're dead. And 16 to 11, well, that's a little closer. Okay. So they took 1 hit point. You saw that one that popped up. We took a couple of hits here. They took a red one, which is their heart. We can get into all that later. The basic point is we rolled a 10, they rolled a 9, so they rolled really well against a base of 6 and 2. I mean, we did too, right? But 16 to 11, because they're cavalry, they got to evade a little bit, but they're in trouble. Urban militia again, and they're dead. And that's it. Once you have won more battles across the front, you get to pursue. And this is why you really want cavalry, because cavalry does a lot of damage on the pursuit. So we killed their whole army, and that's that. You can see the results. Arverni won the battle. Great. We didn't lose anyone. We killed all of their units, and out we go. This turns our kind of hot pink purple color of the Arverni. We have now taken that, and the game continues to process the turn. Running AI, and it's now completed the AI. Okay. Now, what are you seeing here? Well, culture and decadence ranking. Yeah, we're not doing great. There are only 77 societies left. The game, you start with 80, so obviously 3 of them have been taken over in turn 1. We are in dead last place for culture and decadence rating. And what does it mean? Well, if you look at this, at the top is Cyrene. Cyrene is a stable city-state, which are the best. I mean, if you look through here, right? Stable monarchy, stable city-state. If they're green and we'll talk into what goes into this. If you're green, you could get one of these good tokens. They're called progress tokens if you're in the green. All right. And you want those because that is how your society advances and you'll start to get better buildings. You'll start to get better military options as your society develops. All right. In the middle here, from 26 on down, they are white. And what does that mean? Well, you neither get good tokens or bad tokens. All right. It's kind of the mushy middle. There's nothing good or bad about it. You're not gaining as a civilization, but you're also not regressing. And you can see here your plus or minus from last turn, how much you moved up and down the rankings. And then what does red mean? Red means you have slid down the rankings, you are picking up more decadence than you're progressing as a society. And when you're down here, you have essentially a 1 in 3, a 33 to 50% chance of getting an aging token. This is a negative token. When you get to 5 of these, your society regresses into whatever the society is below what you have, all right? Up here, if you get 5 good ones, and you see here, Antagonist already has 3 good ones, you can move up a level, all right? So you have to get 5 of them. Just getting one's not good enough, or even 3. It's either 5 good ones or 5 bad ones. So if you get a bad one, but let's say you jump up here and then you get a good one, then it would just show you having nothing, right? So it kind of goes from +5 to -5. Well, we're in last place. And you may say, what did you do? Oh my gosh, why are you in last place? That is just playing one of these tribes out here in Gaul. You start as a tribal chieftain, which is not very stable to begin with. But as you start taking new territory, we only have 6 pops. We have now, because we've taken that new uh, region, we've added a slave, and that slave is unhappy. And well, if you add one unhappy pop to 6 others, and now we have 3 unhappy slaves and 4 happy citizens, that's not a very stable environment. As a matter of fact, it's the least stable environment in the game right now. But that's okay. We will take care of that eventually. And then here you have the scoreboard, which is legacy ranking. We're at 1. That's our legacy right here. We're picking up, as of right now, +1 per turn. That will go up as we take over new regions, we form provinces, other things happen in the game. We will start to get more and more legacy points, okay? So it's completed the AI. Let's hit OK, that's good. And now what? What's going on here? Well, let's look at our message log. And this looks just like an AGEOD game, right? Arverni has received an aging token and is now standing at -1 aging tokens. Okay, nothing truly negative happens till we get to -5. And so we've got to try to turn things around before we get any more. Now, just because we're in the bottom part there, the bottom 33%, it doesn't automatically mean we get an aging token. Like I said, it's like half the time, maybe 33% of the time, you actually get aging tokens. Uh, Critolus, our ruler, feels that Santonia is a new objective for the armies of Arverni. What does that mean? Well, you see it right here. This is Santonia. He has set this as an objective for us. If we go get this objective, we actually remove an aging token. Every time you get an objective, it removes 1 aging token or adds 1 positive token to your tally. Now, what does this say up here? Okay, this gives us that message again. Critolus feels that Santonia is a new objective for the armies of Arverni. Okay, great. Down here it says our armies marched into Durranius and conquered the region from Celtic independence or Celtic independence. A battle has been fought in Durranius between Arverni and the Celtic independence. We obviously won that. We just watched that. General Tarnorix, a 1-2. Now remember, a 2-2 is as good as it gets. This is offense, this is defense. So Tarnorix is as good of a defensive general from a base as you can get, is now available to serve you. Excellent. Our armies march into Duranius, okay, and Regent Arvernia is receiving one slave after this battle. This is what I was talking about. That's why our decadence went up. And then it goes into the fact there was a battle, and we could go see that if we wanted to, but no reason to do that, right? And this is just, the different filters you have on your messages. Right now, we're getting all of them, but you don't have to. If you get tired of seeing them all, I generally like to go down here and read all the messages. But we have now taken this area here. This is Duranius, and we can click on this, and it's got the exact same layout as our home place or our home region here. The only thing is if you go up here, it says under pacification. What does that mean? Well, you get all kinds of penalties when you first take over a place, which makes sense, right? We're pacifying the place. We're like, hey, we're the great Arverni. We have taken over your place. And the people are not happy about it. They're like, we don't know these Arverni. We don't like them. And so we get a loyalty penalty, a food penalty, an infrastructure, every kind of penalty under the sun. And then you see duration, 4 turns. So it's going to take 4 years or 4 turns for this, all of these negative things to go away. We can see here they have a population of 2, not very big. All right. They have, this tells you all about the region itself. Its frontage is 14. It costs 2 to move across. It's in the plains. If you see down below that, all that's telling you is all of the regions that are contiguous to this one. Okay. And then we go over here. Defense rating is 2, which is actually quite low. This is on 0 to 10. And then we see the decadence and how much decadence is going on here, it's actually not a lot. Now this starts to count up and it will turn yellow and then it will turn red when this region is becoming decadent. Now we do not have any buildings here yet, which can really add to the decadence. And so this is not terrible right now. We'll come back to that. Loyalty and revolt risk, you can look at this. We have a base region loyalty of 100. Population, though, is -8. Now, the reason the base region loyalty is 100, and this is all based on 100, is because these are other Celts. If these were some other group of people or ethnicity, that would be much lower. The population's upset with us, -8. Regional modifiers, -20. And final loyalty is 72. Really, you need to keep the loyalty above 50 to make sure that they don't revolt against you. If they revolt, they will have an army that pops up in the region, and you will have to go put that revolt down. You see here, change from martial law. Well, we do have martial law here automatically because we have them under pacification. So nothing you can do about that, right? Building slots, 0 of 2. So we're currently not building anything. Now the complication comes in here. Let's say that we move someone from construction up to food, because right now it's just a +1. So we would remove 5 from construction and we would do +4 to food. Now you see food's +5, but construction's 0. So we would not be able to build anything here. We're not going to do that. Why are we not? Because we still have a positive food situation. Now, depending on how positive your food situation, that's how fast your pops grow. And so we're only at a +1, and you can go here and read why that is, but we're only a +1. So it's going to take 21 years, 21 turns to get a new pop. That's not great. Obviously, I mean, you want to be getting new pops every 3 to 5, maybe 6 turns. So you may say, well, why not put this guy up here? Because if we put him up there, it's down to 6 turns. Well, you could leave him down here though, and also build something new with food. And as you see, food 8, including a bonus of 5 from figs, because we have figs here, and we'll get into that in a second. Infrastructure, it would cost -1 to build this. That's fine because the upkeep is 1. So it just takes this off the base of what our infrastructure is. It costs 40 infrastructure to do this. Type 1 agricultural building. Fine. All right. So let's go down here and look at the trade goods overlay. And as you see, here we have figs. That is the natural trade good that is in this region. Remember, in our home, we have silver. So over here we have figs, and it's telling us if we build in orchard, we get a bonus of 5 from having figs here in our region. So that's great. And it also tells you you have a missing bonus of 5 food from nuts and seeds and dates. So if we have a chance to build something that creates nuts and seeds or dates, we may want to do that because we get a bonus. Generally, you always want to take the bonuses if you get them. So when you're thinking about trade goods and whatnot, what are you really looking at? Well, you like the things that have green around them because they don't take up a slot, right? We only have 2 building slots here. If we pick this one, its slot usage is 0. And so we don't even use one. This is just building out the roads, so it does not take a slot. The other thing you want to look for are these bonuses. And we see here we get a bonus of 5 for food. So this would produce 8 food when normally an orchard would only produce 3. We also have a smokehouse. We'll see it needs cattle. All right, so we would have to import that. You generally you don't want to import things if you don't have to because it costs money. Down here is stables, all right? We would need horses, trading required. We don't want to do that. Market, and so on and so forth. So we're going to pick the orchard. The first thing you build in a place generally will be food. You want to build up the pops. Now it's going to take 8 turns to build that. Would it be better to move this guy up here and get a new pop in 6? And now you can see this won't be built at all. Not really. Let's get the food production going down here. It'll take 8 turns. That's fine. We'll get food going, and that looks good. All right. And let's go back to our home region. Now we're down to just 1 turn to get the shepherd house. Excellent. We've got good food, and we're going to be getting more. We've got fairly good infrastructure. Now, what we want to do is start thinking about how do we get rid of that decadence? I mean, we're just terrible. Let's move this guy down to culture. And what is that going to do? As we're cranking out more culture, that offsets your decadence. And so if we look here at this 3, this is our progress. This is our decadence. Now we can't see it here, but as we build up our culture, that's going to add to our progress. And it's this kind of ratio and formula here. As you can see, we're 77 of 77. That's not good. This is the historical cultural value. And so it's the average of the historical and current loyalty weighted culture production. What is that? Might you say? Well, there's this whole algorithm that goes into it, but what it essentially does is it weights how much culture you're producing, and it weights it more for current turns, but it also takes into account past turns. And so we will still have that 0 for last time, but now we're going to be up to 7, as you just saw on that, as we add more culture. So we need to add some culture in a hurry. We don't want to stay down in that bottom 33%. So even though it's going to slow down our population growth, because let's put this guy back up here, we could get a new pop in 6 turns, but instead we're not going to get a new one for 13 turns, but it's probably going to be worth it because we're going to get this, which will give us what does this give us? 5 food. when this pops up here to 5 food, it's going to make this go down in the number of turns it takes to get a pop. Okay, so we're kind of playing this balancing game between food, which grows your population, infrastructure, which allows you to build buildings, which sometimes increases your food, but it could also increase your money or culture or infrastructure. And we're doing that balance against culture itself. All right. Um, and so, really, that's all we need to do. We got this new slave that came here this time. Now, one of the things we want to do to very early on is try to build a slave market because if you do that, it distributes slaves all through your holdings and it keeps any one area from having too much dissatisfaction, let's say. And so anyway, we'll get into that as it goes. Essentially, all we've done this turn, moved our army here, took this over. Once we took it over, we're going to build an orchard, and then we came back here and we have a new slave that's in food production. So we moved one of the pops down to culture. That's it. All right, so for turn 3, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to go get our objective if we can, and also keep ourselves from being landlocked. And so let's go ahead and resolve this turn. Now, another thing we can do, let's actually look at this before we do that and say relationships. When you hit relationships, it tells you people's feelings about you. Now, right now, we have all zeros. We have not had any interaction with any of these other peoples. That will change. It can go up to positive 100 or down to negative 100. So we will have to keep that in mind. All right, ownership overlay, we'll get back to that. We're going to go try to take this objective. So we'll play turn 2, have it resolve. Up goes our army there, and as you see, we will again be fighting the people that were indigenous to this area. 1 and 1, we have 18 units, they have 4. We are on a plane with a frontage of 14. We are the attacking force, and so this number for our general will come into play. They really have nothing. I mean, we can go look at this. This time, let's just do continuous play, and it'll just show you the whole battle. You don't have to keep clicking. 15 and 9, 15 and 8, 18 and 13. Yep, we got them anyway. 16 and 3, obviously, we took them out. All right, and so that's that. That battle is won. It will show you all of their units that were destroyed. If there are some they can retreat. It's not like you have to kill all of them. They will have units that will retreat when we fight bigger armies. And then over here it shows you we're all green. So we're still good. We didn't take that much damage or anything. So we're good, and we've now taken this area here, which is Santonia. Now, Santonia, by taking that, we did remove one of the negative token, or the negative token that we got. So it's running the AI, completed the AI. Let's see. Hey, we moved up +2. We went from last place up to 75th. But that negative token that we had, because we took an objective, it's gone. All right. So it's very important if you're a warlike group of peoples at the start to go take those objectives because it will wipe away your negative tokens. Okay, great. Now you see our legacy points are up to 3. You may say, why is it up to 3? Well, we've now taken one of our objectives, so now we get +2 every turn. All right. And so our legacy is up to 3. We are in 31st place. If you're not first, you're last, folks. Antagonos, Ptolemos, I mean, they're way up here for right now, way ahead of us. But that will change as we keep taking more and more places. Now, one thing we need to keep in mind here, we're running -18 gold per turn, -2 manpower, +4 metal. And we'll have to go see and why that is. And also the Galli have moved here now, and we have to start worrying about them. Do we move our army here and kind of protect our home capital, or do we continue up the coast here? Now you may see this thick line. That just shows you where the provinces end. And as I said, you want to try to take these provinces because you get special military units. We'll get into all of that next time. Um, when we come back and play some more Field of Glory. Empires. I love this game. It's a lot of fun, I think. And I think it's a great grand strategy game. Wait until we start running into these other civilizations. Things get really intense. A lot of these battles get intense. Of course, we've just been taking over, these small Celtic tribes that were out here doing not a whole lot. They didn't even have, their own dang civilization, really. And so we will start running into, and we're already starting that with the Galli, we'll start running into them. We'll also start seeing more and more of the choices you have for building and what to do as you start bleeding gold or manpower, things like that. We'll get more into that next time, but let's back up here and look at this beautiful Arverni civilization that's starting to spread here. We're, one of the only ones that has three. There are some out here, Bohemians out here, the Cherskei, the Galli, the Veneti. They have three. The Romans only have three right now. So we're progressing just fine. We have now made it to the sea, so we are not landlocked, and we'll figure out where to go next time. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Hopefully you're enjoying this. I really like this game. I like to play it, and I like to talk about it. So until next time, I'll see you. Strategy Gaming Dojo here. Thank you guys so much.